welcome back to Realcomm Live. Very excited today to talk to some folks from Tavistock who we've heard a lot about at the conference. Today we have Raquel Asa, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Beep, and Juan Santos, who's the Senior Vice President, Brand Experience and Innovation. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
So we had a really good general session this morning talking about all the wonderful things that you're doing at Lake Nona. And one of the things that Juan, you started talking about today was the autonomous shuttle program that you've put together. I'm really interested to talk about kind of the vision that Tavistock had, and one of the things you said was how fast it came to be, kind of from concept. Can you kind of walk us through that journey?
Definitely. So I think strategically, we knew we wanted to have a way for people to move about in Lake Nona, right? We have people arrive in Lake Nona, we have visitors, we have tenants, we have people that live there. We wanted them to forget that they have a car, right? We wanted them to just be able to go anywhere seamlessly with no friction. We make a lot of effort in trying to remove friction in the different pieces that we do. And what we did is we knew that we had to have electrical mobility that was efficient, and it became clear to us that autonomous was the way to go because it offered that opportunity. Not immediately, but that the future would actually bring that opportunity. We were actually talking to a group of serial entrepreneurs about something completely different. Right? We were talking about a different project that they were interested in doing, and they'll still do, hopefully in Lake Nona. And in that conversation, we started talking about cars. We started talking about electric cars, and then the conversation turned to autonomous, and they mentioned that that was an area, the management of autonomous fleets and the management of the intelligence, that they were super interested in. That was a conversation that happened in a conference room in Tavistock about a different topic. 11 months later, we had the first autonomous shuttle from Beep roll from a hotel area in front of a kindergarten, through neighborhoods, through traffic lights, and stop at a restaurant. So it was the first case where an autonomous shuttle was able to actually use a regular unprotected street in the United States. And that allowed Beep to leapfrog. There were tons of people doing autonomous, right? We had people, but they were basically an autonomous shuttle going around the track in the middle of nowhere, or very protected situations. And that was done because we were able to remove a lot of the obstacles. We're an owner-operator, so the way that it works for us in Lake Nona is we own a lot of the different entities that are there. So both stops for Beep, for example, happen in 2 of our properties. So you only had one company to deal with, and of course the Department of Transportation and the National Highway Transit Safety Authority, NHTSA, from a regulatory perspective. But that was that, and it was because you had some super forward-looking people at Beep that had a clear idea. They understood the space really well. And we had an environment where they could work that had no friction for the company to happen, to deliver that autonomy. And today we've moved 100,000 people. It's probably one of the largest, if not the largest and longest running autonomous shuttle operation in the United States. So it's been a remarkable journey. For us as Tavistock, seeing Beep be born and now be a part of the community, and like I keep telling them, I want us to be their smallest customer, right? This is a launch pad for the company, and they're already in a wide variety of places.
So Raquel, was Beep grown out of this vision? Was it created out of this vision and this partnership with Tavistock? Tell us a little more about how that came to be and
Yeah, quite frankly, I think one of the reasons that we have been so successful in Lake Nona from concept to actual implementation is because we have amazing partners like Tavistock. You don't find many communities out there that have the ability to say, okay, let's put a stop right over there. We contact Tavistock, and having that alignment across the board helps us to expedite the process to put a new stop in a new location. One of the reasons that we made a strategic decision to locate in Lake Nona, Juan always jokes, we hope they're their smallest customer, but our best customer, right? But every single route that we've done in Lake Nona has allowed us to be that launching pad because we've tested it in such an innovative community where we have multiple use cases for this technology that still, quite frankly, need to be tested and enhanced in types of use cases that we have throughout the community. But the community of Lake Nona not just what is there, but who is there, quite frankly, has allowed us to grow beyond Lake Nona throughout the state of Florida to Georgia and Arizona, and even in some amazing places like Yellowstone National Park.
So, I'm always curious, being a technology person, the technology around the shuttles themselves. Are there sensors on the road? Like, how are they communicating, or what are they communicating with as they move throughout Lake Nona?
Sure. So when you look at what is BEEP, who are we, what do we do, and how do we work with Tavistock? So we're full turnkey for communities. So one of the things that we provide for Lake Nona and communities across the country is ability to say, what are some of your challenges? What are some of those frictions that you have within your community? And then we look at the available technology and shuttles today that are on market, and then look at the environments in which are prime for this implementation, and we match those perfectly, right? And then as the technology continues to advance and enhance, we look at increasing where we can put those vehicles in the community. So when you look at what does it require, it's everything as well beyond the vehicle itself. I always, our CTO, our Chief Technology Officer says, it's an autonomous vehicle, what could go wrong, right? We realize that there's a lot more that goes into implementing these types of autonomous solutions beyond the vehicle. And quite frankly, it's also not only that customer relation, but that regulatory relationship as well. But the technology itself, it's the vehicle platforms we have today, the AV platforms, everything is pretty much self-contained to the vehicle itself. So you don't need sensors in the ground to enable these vehicles to move, but you also do need partners who are willing to invest in time, right, to say, how do we continue to push the envelope in testing these technologies?
And I believe in Lake Nona, you have dedicated lanes for the shuttles, but that's not, you don't have to do that, right?
And we didn't start that way, and we don't have a fully dedicated lane environment. So the way we started with autonomous shuttles sharing traffic on a regular lane. Part of the learnings that we had was that people like to go at the speed limit, and sometimes they like to go a little bit faster than the speed limit. So, and they get a little bit frustrated with a vehicle that complies with every regulation, right? It stops,
the best drivers
turns,
in the community, right?
Right? Yeah, exactly. They're the safest. They're the safest, and they're the best drivers in the community. So we first implemented a couple of places where the vehicle would move to the side and allow people to pass. And then as we grow the community, we have a combination of dedicated lanes, regular shared space lanes, and we will have in the future an environment where we're actually going to be merging autonomous shuttle traffic with electrically propelled low-speed conveyances, like electric bicycles and scooters. So we will always be testing those use cases where you actually have shared usage. We're big proponents of utilizing existing infrastructure, and BEEP has been able to deliver on that because we didn't want to build a separate network for the vehicles to operate.
And I know the size of Lake Nona, but how long is the longest route that the shuttles are currently taking?
Sure. So when you look at the typical average of what is our route, we have 8 linear miles of AV path and AV routes within the Lake Nona community. We've tested 5 routes already to date. So as Juan mentioned, largest and longest AV network in the entire country at one location. So you won't find a community in the entire world, quite frankly, that has tested that many routes in real-world environments, supported by a shuttle AV fleet of 8 to 10 vehicles. I mean, that is a very large concentration. But quite frankly, it's because of our partnership with Tavistock where we've been able to say, how do we continue to grow this? So as you grow, we grow alongside with you. And then as the technology advances and the technology capabilities of the AV's platforms and the software that we're developing, how do we continue to push again that envelope and put them in newer places, quite frankly, that are just being developed as well within Lake
And I think that's part of the mix is BEEP sits in our strategic plan sessions, right? So they know well in advance what's coming. They actually help inform what comes way in advance. So that actually has an input both on the selection of vehicles, on technology selections, and it also helps us create a better environment from a mobility perspective for our residents, for our tenants and for our visitors.
So we have about a minute left, but I'm kind of curious, what's next? Are you expanding routes? You're so close to the airport, which I think is amazing. Like, are you driving to the airport? Like, can you give us some insight of kind of what's the future to come?
Sure. So if the last 3 years are any indication of what the next 5 years are going to be, I think the possibilities really are endless, right? But it's really about looking back at those 3 years and learning from what we've been able to acquire from our every mile that we acquire, you know, and every mile that we test within Lake Nona and around the country, building that next generation platform. And again, that ability to build software to do continuous monitoring of the vehicle. That's how you're really going to advance the technology, right? And ensuring that you're doing it safely, right?
Yeah.
Because what good are innovations if you're not actually solving a problem, releasing some of that friction that Juan was talking about within communities? So if I look at the next 2 years, even in our roadmap, we're working with a number of suppliers, AV suppliers out there, and also tier 1 automotive suppliers to help really create that next generation vehicle that will allow us to continue serving even broader areas and use cases than what we're serving today.
Well, thank you. So we're out of time. I appreciate both of you talking, and I look forward to coming out to Lake Nona to hop on the ride and take a route through the neighborhood.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back.